Hi, I'm Jeff, and I'm a therapist.
And I'm Tyler, and I'm a patient.
We're going to talk about trauma, healing, and everything. Everything is traumatic.
I think something I want to bring to you is I want to know more about like what got you into wanting to pursue a career in like therapy, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can talk about that, definitely.
Because
Um,
I'm very curious about it. Like what intrigued you about it? Like was it from like a young age or?
um, so I was really interested in like artistic things, but I didn't really have many artistic talents in high school. And then I took a psychology class, and I was like, this stuff is pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um, and we learned about some of the psychological stuff. And so I think I was just interested in psychology when I started going to college. So it wasn't so much therapy or whatever. It was like, I think I like psychology. So that's a
Mhm.
good major for me. The psychology is fascinating.
Mhm. No, I 100% agree. Like, I kind of wish it's something I focused on high school more, but like at the same time, I'm happy with the way everything went. So,
Yeah. Yeah. High school's a kind of a weird, it's very hard for me to remember that much of it.
mm,
I mean, this is the age I am, just for anybody that's listening, so that we know how old I am, which is very, very old. They had
it's not. Hold
smoking
on, hold on.
sections.
How old are you again, Jeff? You're like, how old are you?
I'm 50. I'm 54.
You're
I'll be
54.
55 this year.
See,
I am
that's not.
54 years old.
Someone said that 60 is the new 40. So at this case, 50 is the new 30. You are the new 30, if anything.
Yeah,
Just like
I
I'm the.
like to.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I like the old thing. It's sort of a stick kind of part of my thing. It's just sort of a. So I realize that 54 is not old, but when you are 18 and you think of somebody that's 54, you think of that as ancient because your parents are old
Mm-hmm.
and their friends are old and they're like 40. So
Yeah.
54 is like super old when you're 18. When you're
Right.
54, it's like, this is just all I got. This is where I am.
This is it.
This is, this is all I got. I just got to grab hold of it and do the new reality.
So you went to college with psychology in mind. So then what kind of like made you what bridged the gap between that and therapy, like being a therapist?
So, Hollywood is sort of what, or television is where you see therapy done unless you've really been to therapy or know somebody. So the way it looks on television is pretty exciting. And so when you get in psych, there's not a whole lot of options. So you can teach, you can do research, um, or you could do some kind of like mental health work. And so you watch TV and you're like, this looks great. I'm going to heal and fix people. And so that was sort of what seemed to be the best path for me, um, was go and do something like that. But I didn't really know what that was until I got to grad school. Nobody really understands therapy or what a therapist does, I don't think, until you actually get to the higher level, because it's always like, I'm just going to talk to people and give them advice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's talking to people, but it's not really giving them advice per se. It's not telling them what to do.
Yeah, something that that's something I had to figure out too when like going to therapy, and that's something my therapist actually told me was like she doesn't necessarily give advice. It's just kind of like helping you. It's like guiding you through your own thoughts and your feelings and providing a non-biased opinion in order for you to come to the logical conclusion or come
Yeah,
to
it's
the
sort of
conclusion.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because as a client, and I've been a client of a therapist too, you don't really know what therapy is about until you do it. And as a therapist, beginning, you don't know what it is until you've actually gotten to the higher level of it. Sort of like Scientology.
Mm.
But
I wouldn't make that comparison,
I'm just kidding.
I know.
There's no secret kind of. No, but I mean, I just thought you sat around and I would be like, Tyler, what you need to do is this. And
Mhm.
then I'm like, look at me, I just fixed Tyler.
I'm
Um,
fixed.
but but that's not how it works. So it's weird that, when people come to therapy for the first time, we sort of talk about what therapy is and what therapy isn't. And and then they're like, okay, this is not what I was expecting, but this is going to be okay. It's a little different than I thought. And then you sort of do the process. So.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know if I don't know if television or movies have portrayed therapy in a bad way, but like I think people have that like first notion of like, well, they're just going to tell me what to do and I'll do it, or they'll give me some breathing exercises to do and I'll do it.
Yes. Or we're going to do the Freudian thing. We're going to talk about my dreams or my mother.
Have you on? Yeah, exactly. The Freudian. So, you want to fuck your mother? No. Okay, that's $180.
You're fixed.
You're fixed. I cured you. Let's see. So once you got to grad school is when you kind of like started to realize that therapy wasn't just giving people advice. It was kind of more guiding them. So like did that kind of stay with you after you got out of grad school and graduated? Like once you started getting some of your first clients, like was there some
Yeah,
I'm sure there were some bumps in the road and I don't want like any details on the
there
sessions,
there are
but
bumps. There's definitely bumps. And so I think it's like in grad school you learn what not to do. So you learn the ethical kind of things, like we don't sleep with our clients. We're not going to go to lunch with our clients. We have these boundaries that we learn. So you learn these ethical guidelines.
mhm,
And then you learn these specific techniques like reflective listening, where we're just repeating or trying to hear and restate what somebody's saying, and encouragers, which are like nodding your head. And so you're learning to sort of how to listen in a very in an active way, an active listening kind of situation. So you're learning those skills, and then you learn some specific techniques and tools, which are very varied, different things. But then you really just have to do it, and you have to practice it.
do you practice on like friends and family that way, or how do you get practice? And I guess you kind of like shadow. No.
Well, you do a 1,000 hours of internship while you're in grad school,
Hmm.
or my program was. So you actually did 1,000 hours. Out of those, about 400 have to be direct client conversations. And then you have to be supervised by a licensed professional
Hmm.
to sort of help you through that process. So you get your practice on it through an internship. Um, we also did a lot of role play within the program where you do it with your colleagues. Um, so it's sort of again, I, I say this, it's not hard in the sense of like engineering or math is hard to me.
Hmm.
It's more hard in that it's really hard to listen to somebody for an hour because it's not a skill that we are really taught to do. And so we have to learn how to really listen to somebody. Um, and then you're looking for certain, you are looking for like self-harm and danger kind of signs. Like, so there's
Hmm.
other things you're taught to, like, is this person dangerous
Hmm.
or to themselves or others? But generally it's just about listening.
It's so weird that we go to school to listen.
We go to school to listen. Yeah. Because we don't listen to each other.
So, and I guess I wanted to back up about like the code of conduct with clients because I wasn't. I mean, I was kind of aware of it, but I guess I was just like, you can't like just actively like be their friend. It's different if you happen to like run into them.
Yes, yes. So like it would not be okay for me to be your therapist
Right.
because we are friends.
Right.
We have a relationship already, and it's not because of any negative thing. It's just like I already know you, and so I'm going to see you as my friend Tyler instead of a person that I don't know who I can be totally objective with. So there's all kinds of like, so the big ones are we don't have a intimate relationship with our clients. We don't really hang out with them or follow them on Facebook or whatever. We don't have a relationship with them outside of the therapeutic relationship.
And it's so crazy, like how, like, I absolutely get why it is that way because that's just how it is, like, or like the results that you get from that. Cause like it really does help someone if it is just a objective viewpoint.
Yeah,
Cause it's no matter how objective your friend tries to be, they just, or partner tries to be, they can't do that.
right. Because you're in a relationship, and so there's always some kind of emotional entanglement
Hmm.
with people you know. And there's also a power and control difference because in therapy, while I do share parts of myself with my clients, it's really about them and their issues. So I'm not spending time talking about myself all the time. It's about them. And so there's a power difference. They're sharing a lot of themselves with me, and I'm sharing tidbits with them. So it's sort of a unbalanced relationship. So
Yeah.
to be buddies with everybody, and there are clients that I'd be like, I'd like to hang out with this person.
Hmm.
But to be buddies with them is sort of taking advantage of that unbalance because they've told you all their secrets,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know your secrets. They don't really know you like you know them.
Yeah. No, that totally. I never even thought about the power difference. And like,
Yeah.
I think about just when I'm in therapy, like, yeah, of course I keep it on me, but like, I don't like ask about Heather, but like, I know that um, she likes therapy TikTok. Yeah, and I know that she's generally left leaning just because sometimes I just rant in there. Sometimes it's not even about me. I'm just ranting about my fucking thoughts and feelings, which it is
Yeah.
about me, but
Yeah. You're venting. You're letting your feelings and emotions out.
mm. And it's just she's kind of like, I definitely feel that.
Yeah. And that's appropriate. So I mean, I could see anybody, and a good therapist can see somebody that has different religious beliefs, different political beliefs,
Hmm.
because it's not about us. So if somebody comes in and says, I need to figure out how to become a better Christian, and I'm not a Christian, I'm not saying I'm not a Christian, but if I wasn't a Christian, then I could still see them. I could help them do that because
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what I think. So it's harder if they have a sort of a very if they have a very different kind of political system than I do.
Right.
I mean, if somebody was, I'm a pretty liberal guy, but if somebody was a Trump supporter, I could talk to them, I could help them, because it doesn't matter what their political system is. But sometimes some of the things that people say can be problematic or cause angst for a therapist.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because what it boils down to is that regardless of their beliefs, they're still a human and they still have their shit to work through.
Yeah, yeah, and we do this. And, there's this concept called unconditional positive regard, which is sort of this idea of I'm going to accept you. You're going to be able to come in here and be safe to talk about the things you want. And at the end of the day, you've got to live your life. So whatever you're dealing with, unless you're telling me you're going to go hurt somebody
Mm.
or hurt yourself, that's between you and whoever else you're around.
Mm.
I am not the police to figure out, what you're going to do. All I got to do is make sure you're not going to hurt anybody or yourself.
Right.
Um, Everything else is your responsibility. So it's sort of that idea of, yeah, you can help anybody, but there are times when there might be a client where it's like, I don't want to work with this client. We're just too different, or I'm not really good for this type of problem they have. I might not be as good dealing with children or whatever,
Hmm.
or marital work or whatever. People have different specializations and expertise.
Right. And what was it that you called that?
Unconditional positive regard.
Unconditional positive regard. Yes, that sounds very
Yeah.
similar to the concept of radical empathy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the same. Radical acceptance, unconditional positive regard.
Mhm.
It's a Carl Rogers idea, who is an old uh, therapy guy, but he created this type of therapy called person-centered therapy, which most people use at least a piece of in their practice.
Right.
And it basically says, if you can create a environment that a person is accepted and feels able to be their true self, then they will heal. They will heal themselves if you
Mm.
create that environment. So
God
that's
damn, that is
what,
smart.
yeah, it's good stuff. He was old. I mean, he was in the 40s or 50s, 60s, something
Ah,
like that.
that's
60s probably.
it's so true though. Like you really
Oh
like
yeah,
you can't heal unless you're being your true authentic self. And
yeah,
if you're not in a safe space to talk about and open up like that, then
yeah,
you're never going to heal. And even if you heal, it's never over. And
yeah,
I didn't know about that type of therapy thought either, but it is kind of incorporated in all of them, just to like a
yeah.
certain
It's
extent.
Yeah, to most modern therapists probably have a person-centered piece to their therapy.
Hmm.
So, and then you can use other techniques throughout that. But, I think the biggest thing is that, and this is sort of my philosophy religiously, therapeutically, whatever. If you allow people patience and you allow them acceptance, that they will slowly get better and heal things. Now, that doesn't mean they might not need medication or they might not need some more specific techniques. But if you have time to really let somebody be their true self and they feel safe and accepted, they
Hmm.
can get better.
100%. Yeah. And like, see the therapy that I usually go to. Let's see. I got the basic concept of like what DBT therapy is, and I did some of that, and then I also did schemas
Yeah, that's a
and
Jungian thing.
mm, okay, yeah, that's a Jungian thing, of course, yeah, and then I always learn something while talking to you, so it's great to hear like these different therapy styles or
Yeah,
methods. I don't know what you'd call them.
yeah, yeah. Methods or styles. Those are perfect ways to describe it.
Hey, check it out. He's got the new DBTs on. I don't know. Sorry, that was stupid. It was a stupid joke. But the reason that I even brought up the radical empathy was like, and it's great that you segued it. I like it's something that I really want to practice and like do, and I try to do it in my daily life of trying to be like accepting regardless. But I find it hard to do, and I know it's only because I'm human. You're never going to get it 100%, but sometimes it's hard to really commit to it because there's just so many bad people sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's if and I'm the same way as you are. I mean, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt and treat them with kindness and try to understand where they're coming from. But there's so many, and I find this more as of a detached level. So at a level away from me. Most people that I interact with, I can find something positive or something to click to. Even if they have a different political thought or religious belief, we
Mm,
can find some commonality if we're actually talking to each other.
mm,
But like at a detached level, like a politician or a talking head that is spouting some kind of hate speech or whatever it is, I find myself being very angry and judgmental of those folks
mm.
because it's just so distasteful and so disturbing, the kind of things that people preach and talk about.
It's very disheartening to hear a lot of it.
Yeah,
And especially in light of like what's been recently happening in Tennessee,
yeah,
it's been very like disheartening and sad to see. And like I guess I just have trouble trying to find a way to actively support the LGBTQ community. There we go. Fuck. I don't know why that was so fucking hard.
It's a tough one. LGBTQ plus question mark. And I think that the community has like, that is, it used to be LGBT and then Q and then plus. And so it's interesting, even if you look at the flag, the rainbow flag, it is adapted. And so like
Mm-hmm.
there's all these flags, and like one guy was like came into my office and he's like, "Do you have any trans flags?" And I didn't know there was a trans flag. I can get some, but it's like a different color. And it's like, this is great for a white old guy to learn about. I need to
Mm-hmm.
know there's different flags. I didn't know there was a different flag. So, but like the rainbow flag is actually changed to add the trans, I think, and maybe the bi colors.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember all the colors, but it's like, okay, this is cool. We're adapting. We're educating and learning and finding words to describe things.
And I think
And what
that's,
drives me crazy. So go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, like, and that's like, that's, I think that's kind of like, I don't know. I'm trying to articulate my thoughts, so I'm going to word vomit a little bit. Like, even the people that lean liberally to the left are still learning about these different subcultures within this community. And it's
Yes.
stuff that's been around for centuries, but we are still learning too. And I think the other side has a hard time like learning it too, or just don't want to learn it, or just like confuse it, or just try to like minimize it when I don't see why that it is an issue to constantly learn and to always ask questions and to always be receptive and accepting of people.
Yeah. To me, it comes down to fundamentalism or rigidity. And I think all of us have things we are fundamental or rigid about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very black and white kind of thinking. There's one truth, there is one right way. If you are very rigid and see things only in one way, you say, why do I have to learn all these pronouns? Why do I have to do this? And to me, it's more like we are giving people more terms to describe their true self. They already felt this stuff, but they now have words to say, oh, they, them, that describes me.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like what I want to be called. And so people are like, oh, there weren't all these people until there were the pronouns. No, there were the people. They just didn't have ways to define themselves.
Yeah.
And people want to be accepted and defined in ways that they feel comfortable with. And so pronouns, all these different things, people, it's, you look at I don't want to say the words, but we look at the evolution of different terms that were used to talk about African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
The terms have evolved. The terms that we used to use to talk about Down syndrome or folks with Down syndromes, those terms have evolved, and we should be evolving to be more specific. When instead of somebody we don't call people addicts or alcoholics anymore. We say a person with a alcohol use disorder,
Mm-hmm.
a person with a opioid addiction or an opioid use disorder, because to call somebody an addict is a value judgment. We want to describe it. Yeah.
It's derogatory. And like, I am guilty of that thinking because I am a product of parents who had an opioid disorder.
Yeah.
So that's just, and it's still embedded to me, and I still can't help but to say that I'm a child of an addict, but it's derogatory to say that. And I think part of why I have that, or at least why I say it that way, is because I'm still kind of healing from that.
Yeah. And I think it's different. So, I mean, I think it's all about working on thinking about the way we look at things. And so there's nothing wrong with you saying it the way you're saying it.
Mm.
You're not attacking someone. You're not trying to harm someone. You're just trying to use the terms that work for you.
And to
me,
just
that's
communicate. Yeah.
Yeah, you're communicating. To me, saying somebody that identifies as a woman and insisting on calling them he is insulting and it's an attack. It's like, oh, you know, they were born with, they were assigned male at birth, so I'm never going to change their pronouns because all it is about a penis or vagina.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And that's just, to me, that's that rigid thinking. And it seems to go right with a lot of religious fundamentalism. But it's all kinds of fundamentalism. It's all kinds of stuff. It's not just religion.
Right.
So
And
it's problematic to me that people are so rigid instead of just, I go back to it. Why is it hurt? How is it hurting me if someone goes by whatever pronouns they want to go by? How is that hurting me?
I can't get my thoughts, Jeff.
Sorry, man.
Oh,
This is heavy stuff.
you're just so much smarter than me.
Oh, please.
It really, yeah, it's hard when they haven't met someone like that, or if
Yeah.
they, sometimes it's just a pigheadedness of not willing to change or evolve, because like you even have people that are like, well, there's some good ones, and it's like, what the fuck does that mean?
Well, that's what we used to say about African American people, right?
Yeah,
There's some
it's like,
good
no,
ones.
that's stupid. That's
Yeah. To me, it's like, yeah, it's we're in a interesting turning point in our country, and it's coming to a head where you have the "Are you with us or are you against us?" folks. So it's like I see it as fear. It's the last roundup of the wagons for the old white establishment. They're
Mhm.
scared of losing power, and so they're trying to do everything they can. They can't stop it. The momentum has occurred.
No.
Young people are different. They don't see as much of this stuff that my generation did, or even your generation did. They're not going to stand for it.
No.
But right now, they've got a little bit of the establishment has a little bit of power left, and they're
Mhm.
going to do everything they can do to protect that power.
I just hope my
And that's not just
generation. Oh yeah.
Republicans. It's everybody. It's the
Oh.
political system.
Oh yeah. It's not a right or left issue. We're talking about we're talking about politicians and Congress people who have been bought and sold a long fucking time ago.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
isn't a left or right issue. This is
No.
us against them. This is, and I just hope my generation of millennials, I hope we just get out of Gen Z's way and just fucking kick that fucking door down.
But millennials are in. I mean, it's exciting to deal with people your age, to deal with young folks, young folks who are educated, who are talking about things that I wouldn't have thought about until I was in grad school. I mean, it's just like we didn't talk about that stuff. We didn't talk about any of that stuff because we were told America's the best country ever. Pot's really, really bad for you, and you'll jump out of a building if you ever take it. It was a very kind of, oh, it gay people, you don't know them, because blah, 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 but it's just different. And representation has changed. And we're not there, but I mean, we are, the genie is out of the bottle.
And the sad thing is like they have to, they don't have to, but I think a good reason that they are being more socially involved and talking about these things is because they fucking have to. Because
It's survival.
yeah, at this point it's like you're fucking us.
Yep.
And so like,
and
I think
they know it's shit. They know it's a bunch of shit. They know gay people. They know they go to drag shows. It's a load of shit.
Mm-hmm. And like, I think millennials do too. I think we're also just kind of jaded to an extent, because like my childhood is very similar to a lot of people my age's childhood, where like the parents were kind of absent. They were kind of doing their own thing, and like we were kind of left to just raise ourselves in a sense. And it's sad. It's sad.
When were you in high school? What years?
I graduated in 2011.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say something about 90s grunge music, I
No,
mean,
no,
that
don't,
was you weren't alive, or
don't.
you might have been alive, but not for much of it.
No, yeah, not for much of it, but I was born in '92. So by the time I was in high school, it was different culturally, but I was like, I've always been really big in the '60s music, so I wore a
Mm,
lot of
mm,
those band T-shirts.
yeah. Well,
And
I think the 2000s have been such a tumultuous. Because when did was 9/11 2001?
yep, I was
I mean
in fourth grade.
that changed the world.
It really did.
It really did change the world.
I would even go so far as to say, is Bill Clinton getting that BJ in the office changed the world?
You know, you can't really be upset about that except for the power difference. You know, if
Yes,
it was like a colleague or whatever, it's just like you're the president, you got the Oval Office. I mean,
get a BJ in
I
it.
think you should at least get a freebie, and I mean, for one. But she was his intern, and so yeah. But that changed the world. Yeah, definitely.
It changed the world. I think that changed the world in a sense of like, that might be the lewdest thing the public knows that a president has
Hmm.
done in that office.
Yes. Well, we know there's really, really bad things that have happened there in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but isn't it interesting that that was such a thing, and there was a power control thing there, but that sexuality becomes the thing that we are upset about. We're not upset that we're dropping drone bombs millions of times a year and killing thousands and thousands of people
Mm-hmm.
in other countries. Some of them may be bad guys, but we're just
Maybe.
bombing the shit out of people all the time, and we're worried about the blowjob in the White House.
Well, we have I think America as a whole has a very like rigid view on sex. I think it's growing. I think it's changing, and I think that's probably why there's such an issue with the LGBTQ community. Why is that so hard for
Yeah,
me? I don't know.
yeah, you can do it that way.
Yeah,
Some people actually do LGBTQ,
okay.
and sometimes Y.
As long as I'm getting them, I don't want to refer to them as like a derogatory thing. I want to call them the community that they are.
Yeah, yeah. What I found is that people want to be, they want people to try. And so, like, sometimes one of my colleagues goes by she, they,
Mm-hmm.
and that was confusing to me. And somebody asked her a question like, what does the they mean? And so the she is, so sort of the direct, so like if you put she first, you're sort of saying she is what I want to be called generally. But I
Mm-hmm.
also go by they, and they is sort of a queer identity of like, so there's also part of me, I go by she, but there's also part of me that feels that her doesn't fit. And so I think if you just try and you ask questions, people are fine. They just
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be dead named. They
Yeah.
don't want to be, you know, ridiculed or made fun of.
Mm-hmm.
We all make mistakes. I mean, it's just, but people just want to be who they are.
And there's no reason to deny them that.
Right. We all want to be who we are.
And I don't. Have you ever watched Our Flag Means Death?
What now?
Have you ever watched? There's a show called Our Flag Means Death. Have you ever watched it or heard of it?
No, 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 I haven't heard of that.
It's on HBO Max, and it's a pirate show. It's about
Oh, I have seen that.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it does such a good job of like explaining that sort of thing, I feel. Because
Yeah.
and I mean, this spoilers ahead.
Yeah.
Did you finish the season or did you watch just
Yeah.
some of it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they find out that Jim is feminine, right? Looks like a lady.
Yep. Yep.
And they're like all confused about it. And they're like, listen, you guys have just known me as Jim, so just call me Jim. And they're like, oh, okay, that's simple. Like it sometimes is just as simple as that.
I'm still worried about Ken.
You
I want to
shouldn't.
do a brief discussion in case there is something wrong with Ken. Ken was supposed to be with us tonight.
I mean, do you want me to call him?
No. I trust you.
I really want to I want you to know that I didn't murder him.
Well, I think I just want the audience to know that just in case something happens to Ken, that probably we want to look at Tyler and myself first.
You're already throwing yourself under the bus too.
Yeah, I mean, well, you and I are compadres here, so
compadres.
We're just gonna have to. We're the trauma team, so we're gonna have to take this one for each other.
We're pod trays, like a podcast.
Yes, that's a good one. That could be in some of our materials. Ken, if you're out there, I love you.
Ken, if you're out there, quit screaming. You'll be gone soon.
Yeah.
I think this is I think this has just been a very special, I don't know, kind of serious discussion episode. I think this is a good point to kind of end it off. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, the whole thing is, this is what we do. We talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
And you and I are friends, and we have, I think, a lot of common things, but I'm sure if we dig, we're going to find some disagreement areas.
Surely.
But you talk to people, you give them respect, and you listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, okay, you don't have to change people's minds. Just listen to each other.
On that note, you just listen. This has been everything. This has been
We went through a bunch of names, so it's hard to keep up with. Ken had all this worked out, but then he's disappeared. Nobody's seen Ken for about a month and a half.
I saw. Hey, I talked to him via text.
Okay,
he's fine.
All right.
This has been Everything is Traumatic. I'm Tyler.
I'm Jeff.
And we're signing off for all of those.
Signing off. Aye, aye, sir.
For all those traumatic heads. I don't know what we're calling the listeners yet. Traumanoids.
We may have to have a contact. Trauma links.
Trauma links. Tributers. I don't know.